if you hadn't noticed, we've been using the Gospel of Mark for a few weeks now, and all kinds of stuff has happened, and we're only on like verse 39 of the first chapter, which is because Mark just is like a freight train. It just goes so fast, and so many things happen. And as a matter of fact, even though we're not even at the end of the first chapter of Mark, we've only heard from Jesus so far for like 30 verses. And he's done several things that he is going to continue to do for the rest of the gospel. One of them is casting out demons and silencing them. The second one is he goes around touching people he is culturally not supposed to touch, like Simon's mother-in-law. First of all, she's sick, which means she's unclean. Second of all, she's not a relative and she's a woman. So it's very taboo to put your hand on her, and he does that. The third thing he does is he goes around healing people without a license to heal people. In the ancient world, in Israel, the only one who can heal you is the priest. Because your sickness, whether it's emotional or mental or physical, is clearly your punishment from God. And so, who do you turn to? You turn to the authority on God, and he's the only one that's allowed to heal you. So Jesus is crossing all these lines. First 30 verses, that's all he's doing stuff he shouldn't be doing or isn't authorized to do. And he will continue to do that. And the first thing he does is the casting out of the demon in the synagogue, or at least that's what he did last week. So one of the things that grabs me, of course, maybe if you don't know me that well, or if you haven't known me for like 10 minutes, you might not know that I'm really big into horror movies. And my favorite, by far, are the ones that are involved exorcisms. I love the ones, aren't they the best? Exactly. And so exorcisms, how do they happen? In the movies, it's always an ancient old priest who is fluent in Aramaic and Hebrew and Latin, and he has this awesome book. I always want to know, what is that book he's holding? Because it's not the prayer book, and it's not the Bible, but it's all well worn out because he's done so many exorcisms, right? You know, he knows exactly where to flip, and he goes and he has a cross, and he has some holy water, and he comes in to whoever's possessed, and, you know, in the movies I watch often, they're tied to the bed, and he's like, I command thee in the name of Jesus, and he throws water on them, and they start writhing around, and their head spins, and the bed levitates. It's so cool. One of the things that I have to tell you about being a priest, at least in the Episcopal Church, and even at the seminaries that are interfaith or interdenominational, I have yet to see a course on exorcism in any of them. And sometimes I will go online and flip through what's going on at a seminary to see if I could audit a class. If there was a class on exorcism, I would so be there. It does not exist. There's no exorcism in the prayer book, but I did find a book where there is a chapter called Exorcism. It's in the Book of Occasional Services. And when I found it in somebody's old library. And I was like, oh, boy. And I went, and I was like, there it is, exorcism. So I turned to the exorcism chapter, and it's 2 lines. And they say, from time to time, you might be in a position in your congregation where you think you should perhaps have an exorcism. If this happens to you, call your priest. And I think that between the lines, that means because at that point it will be time for you to take a sabbatical and get a little medication, and then we'll let you go back after a break. I think that's what that means in Episcopalian. So, given that, I have to tell you, I've been here 5 years, and even though, in fact, actually 5 years, I think right now, this Sunday, I think this is my 5th, but anyway. Yeah, so anyway, thank you. I've been here 5 years. I would say 65% of my ministry here so far has been exclusively exorcism. And let me explain. In my office, if I could take out stock, I think we should invest in Kleenex. Because I cannot tell you how much of my time is spent with people either floating through the congregation, who have been here for a little while, or just off the street. And all I hear over and over again is those voices of, actually in Revelation, the name for Satan is the accuser of the brethren. The voices of the demons in your head. In AA, there is a phrase for these voices. You'll have to pardon me because it requires me to curse, so I apologize. But this is very helpful cursing. The name of the demons in AA is the itty bitty shitty committee. And they come in to my office several times a week in people that I love and care about. And they say all kinds of stuff, all kinds of horrible stuff. I know you're sober today, but you're going to relapse. How many times have you relapsed already? You know, good try, but you're a loser. So there's that, right? You're too fat, and no one's ever going to love you. You're never going to be able to succeed at life. You're basically a great big loser with loser frosting and loser sprinkles. Loser sprinkles. It's never going to work. No matter how hard you try, you're never going to be enough. And your problem is that you've always been a failure, so you're going to continue to be a failure. You can't do it on your own. And they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk. When they talk to me, maybe sometimes you might come up to me after worship. Please continue to do this. Don't stop doing this. Sometimes you will say, Lori, that was great, or you're doing a really good job at something or other. Just so you know, I'm watching your lips, but what I am hearing is wah, 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 wah. I can't hear that. But if you take me aside and you say, you are not working hard enough, and you are lazy, and you are a failure as a priest, you have my full attention. And by the end of the meeting, I'm going to be like, now that is an insightful human being. I'm going to pay attention to him. Right? Here's the thing. Those voices, and this is why we come to church, those voices are so loud, sometimes the best you can do is just like turn them down a little bit. My demon is always with me. I haven't been able to get rid of them yet. I can turn them down. The way I turn them down is by coming to church. Right? But here's the thing about those demons. Sometimes they get so loud, you can't even hear Jesus over them. Jesus is trying to talk to you, but the demons are too loud and you have to get them turned down or have somebody cast them out. Because Jesus is trying to tell each of us, and has been trying to tell each of us from the moment of our baptism, you are God's beloved child. There has never been anybody in the world that God has sent into this world with a mission and a joy and a beauty that you possess. You are God's beloved. And you are appointed and you are ordained to bring good news, and it's the kind of news only you can bring. And you cannot, this is baptism, you can't mess that up. God forgave you for all of the stuff that you already did and are going to do before you were born. You're chosen, you're loved unconditionally, and there is nothing that can take that away from you. When we have those voices that keep trying to drown out Christ talking to you, the other thing it does, and this is really bad for me, it immobilizes the church. It immobilizes the church. The church, the people following Jesus around, are the ones who are supposed to go cast out demons and tell them to be quiet, They're supposed to go touch the people that the culture says you're not allowed to touch. And the other thing the church does is it goes out into the world and it pronounces healing without a license. And as soon as the church puts its big toe outside on the street, all of the demonic voices start screaming. Sometimes they scream in committees inside the church. And here's the kind of thing that they say. You know what? We don't have enough money. We don't even belong in that neighborhood. You don't even know what you're doing. This isn't something that we can take on because we're too small. The voices go, right? But I'll tell you what. Our church and the Episcopal Church in Jersey City has been going out into the street telling Satan to shut up. When the culture has been telling us over and over again, you can't take in refugees. First of all, you have to take care of your own first before you can help anyone else. And second of all, they're dangerous. You don't know where they're from. They could be here to hurt you. The Episcopal Church said, "Be quiet, Satan." And we opened the lighthouse. And we've been taking in, I think we've had something like 24 asylees come and live in the lighthouse. We told Satan to be quiet. Every Good Friday, for the last 4 or 5 years, this church has gone to sites of violence and murder in Jersey City. And because I'm revealing to you now, I really believe this stuff because I have gotten crazy about exorcism. We bring out a cross full of nails, just like in the movie, with the exorcist, and a big bucket of water, and holy oil, and everything else we can lay hands on. And we go into the street, and we go to places where children, just about my son's age, which is scaring the hell out of me, children have murdered each other because they're hopeless. And we go to places that have been known as the place where the 12th homicide victim this year was murdered. And we say, "Be silent, Satan." That child's name was not the 12th homicide victim this year. His name was Robert. And this is his mother. And the street corner where this happened is not called none of my business. It is not called roll up your window and lock the door. It is not called God forsaken. This is the corner of Ocean. This is on Mulberry. This is on Danforth. This is holy ground. Be quiet, Satan. And in August, when the Episcopal Church opened a community center on Old Bergen Road, we took a walk around that neighborhood. And Satan said over and over again, we said, "Tell us about this neighborhood." People say, "Oh, I keep to myself. It's none of my business. I stick to myself." You should too. You should too. It's dangerous around here. Shouldn't go outside. And the Episcopal Church showed up and said, "It is our business." Christ sends us out to love our neighbors as ourselves. My neighbor is my brother. It's my business. Satan, be quiet. That's the only church the work has. The work the church has. I think that's it. I think it's almost all about exorcism. I am that crazy. I really believe it. And when you and I walk out of here today, there's going to be a million voices. As soon as you walk out the door, telling you, oh, well, that was a nice sermon. Or, yeah, that was inspirational, but now I got to get back to reality, or whatever it is. And maybe I can, but probably not, and I'm stupid, or whatever it's going to tell you. Don't eat that donut, whatever it's going to say. Here's what I want to tell you about that voice. Whatever it says to you about being a loser, and if it tells you that this church isn't divinely appointed to go out in the world and proclaim good news, and if Satan asks you next time Satan says, by whose authority are you going to do this? You got to tell him this. You are appointed by Jesus. You are the holy child of God. You were baptized in the blood of the Lamb. And your name is Chi Modu or Amy Elise. Insert your name here. And literally what you have to do is say, get the hell out of my way. Amen.